I'm in the hot seat.
Push it away from you.
Okay,
if it's
thanks.
too close. It's all right.
Oh, this is so fun. Thank you. I feel like I want to just dive off the leading edge right now. It's really awesome. Okay, so I have a number of questions on my wrist, but given what was just discussed, I feel like the questions that have been coming forth in the past 10 minutes should be what I focus on. And so the first question I have is, so our affinity for different experiences comes from the inherent attributes of Source. Is that true?
Well, we really, 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 really like this. And then you are right. It did come. It was inspired right into your mind, right into your grid as a result of everything that we've been talking about here. So the affinity that you have for things is about momentum. The question is it Source momentum, or is it I picked it up on my physical trail momentum?
Yeah.
Think about it. In other words, you have affinity for things because you've had exposure to things. So you know how you want things to look, or you know how you want things. You have a lot of things that you've picked up along your physical trail, and that's just fine. But so let's just call affinity my inclination toward it, or I think that this is something that I want. It's coming from momentum. And the question is the momentum of a non-physical nature or of a physical nature?
So the distinction that I was starting to make in my mind, and this might not be correct, but
it
is that the preference between one or the other comes from the physical experience, but the affinity is really coming from that resonance between Source and me.
We really like those words, and we think all of that. We think that is an accurate way of putting it. We would add this to that. The preferences, as you are sifting and sorting, you are putting it into this vortex, and that then becomes Source's preference too. In other words, because you are the expansion of that, you are the reason for the expansion of that which is Source.
Which is really a self-perpetuating system because it's coming through as this, set of like positive attributes and fun and all of these things. I naturally have an affinity toward those things, and so in this, sea of contrast, I prefer and I move towards more of that which is the same as Source, thus expanding and having more specific experiences of the same set of values, or does that...
perfectly said. And in that perfect set of values, where it's just getting better and better and better, is there any contrast that is causing it to get better?
Yes.
Has to be, doesn't it? So, therefore, the contrast is part of the perfection.
Okay, so this leads me to the other question that I've been sitting on, and it kind of comes and goes, and I've never really, I've never written it down, but it came back with this. So Source, it's really visual for me, so I imagine it as like this almost amoeba-like coral, for instance. And a coral is really interesting because each of its polyps is almost an individual consciousness. It behaves the same way as the like mother coral, kind of like a holograph. And when I imagine Source and we're extensions of this Source energy, kind of feeding back into it and expanding, I feel like we're talking about the how and how it's all progressing, but in terms of the why, that classic, what was the initial intention? I mean, it's eternal, but...
What is it?
The experience?
The joy of expansion.
Right.
The joy of expansion.
And that's just the inherent quality.
That's so annoying to humans because they, for the most part, want the expansion to be for some other reason than the joy of the moment of the expansion. That's why they want to fast forward to the end result. And then that's why they're unhappy the whole time the end result hasn't happened, which is what keeps them from the alignment that would give them the joy of the expansion to begin with. We have just solved the problems of the universe.
But it only creates more joy, right? Because they are wanting it more.
It's never ending. Sometimes we've said that, so you sort of want something. You sort of know what you don't want, so you sort of know what you do want. And there's not much energy moving in that. But if you line up with what you do want, then you feel sort of good. But if you really know what you don't want, and therefore you really know what you do want, and you line up with what you do want, you really feel more exhilaration in it. So you all get to choose how you play the game. We think you like the trauma of it a little bit because sometimes by really knowing what you don't want and depriving yourself of what you do want for a while, then when you move into it, it's more of a satisfying ride. So you get to play it however you want. We notice that sometimes you attract so much that you get overwhelmed because you ask for more energy than you have vibrationally practiced to be up to speed with. And the feeling of overwhelmment is the feeling of not being up to speed with the energy that you've asked for. That's what overwhelmment is. It's more energy moving than you have practiced being in alignment with, you see. So you get overwhelmed, and then you begin making action decisions rather than energy decisions. Action decisions rather than emotional decisions, how you want to feel, the why that you were talking about, decisions. And then things slow down, and then you get bored. So you go from bored to overwhelmed, bored to overwhelmed, bored to overwhelmed, and you could choose something much more comfortable. But in whatever it is you're choosing, it's just fine. It's understanding the control of it. Sometimes don't you like to get together with friends and talk all night long just because it's fun? Even though your patterns have told you that you do better with more sleep, isn't it sometimes just worth it to stay up and just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk? And can't you sleep some other time? And is it wrong that you did that? Does it always have to be the same pattern? And so sometimes you're overwhelmed, and sometimes you're bored, and sometimes you've got it just right, like Goldilocks. Sometimes it's just exactly right. But usually, this is the thing that we really want to emphasize, and we know you know this. There is this delicious expanse, this delicious, eternal, infinity expanse between where you are and where you're going. You're not ever going to be there saying, there, I'm done. Not ever. And as you make peace with the never-endedness and the not doneness and the eternalness and the constant unfoldingness, not just make peace, but embrace it fully. Just love every rotten thing that happens to you for the clarity that it produces within you, and start to feel the satisfaction of now knowing what you want. In other words, oh man, I didn't want that to happen, but after it happened, I became so clear about what I want. Because when you're clear about what you want, there's no resistance in your vibration. When you are certain about what you want, there is no resistance in your vibration. You're not waffling. You're not should I, shouldn't I. You know. When you know, it's not the evidence that's supporting it that's making you know. You just know. Don't you know when you know? Don't you know what we're talking about knowing, that feeling of just knowing? That's such a delicious place to be. But it's fun along the way to getting there, too. We want you to be fine about not knowing. Well, I think I sort of kind of know, but I don't really know, and I'm not really feeling it yet. But I'm close to it, and I'm feeling the effects of my contrasting vibration quite a bit. I can feel that I'm not right on it, but it's fun getting on it. Isn't that what? We promise you, if you went to the shooting range or you went to the video game and you hit the bullseye every time you tried, you'd say, well, this game's rigged. I get a perfect score every time. How long do you think you'd be playing? You wouldn't play very long. You like the constant improvement. You like setting new targets and finding new ways of accomplishing them. It's so much fun. It's so much fun to get better and better and better and better and better at being. Better at being. Better at being. Not better at doing. Better at being. Better at feeling. Really good. Something more?